Letters to Dead Authors. To Charles Dickens. Sir, it has been said that every man is born a Platonist or an Aristotelian, though the enormous majority of us, to be sure, live and die without being conscious of any individuous philosophic partially whatever. With more truth, though that does not imply very much, every Englishman who reads may be said to be a partisan of yourself or of Mr. Thackeray. Why should there be any partisanship in the matter, and why, having two such good things as your novels and those of your contemporary, should we not be silently happy in the possession? Well, men are made so, and must needs fight and argue over their taste in enjoyment. For myself, I may say that in this matter, I am what the Americans do not call a mugwump, what English politicians dub a superior person. That is, I take no side and attempt to enjoy the best of both. It must be owned that this attitude is sometimes made a little difficult by the vigor of your special devotees. They have ceased, indeed, thank heaven, to imitate you, and even in descriptive articles the touch of Mr. Gigadibs, of whom we almost took for the true Dickens, has disappeared. The young lions of the press no longer mimic your less admirable mannerisms, do not strain so much after fantastic comparisons, do not, in your manner in Mr. Carlyle's, give people nicknames derived from their teeth or their complexion, and generally we are spared second-hand copies of all that in your style was least to be commended. But though improved by lapse of time in this respect, your devotees still put on little conscious airs of virtue, robust manliness, and so forth, which would have irritated you very much, and there survive some pressmen who seem to have read you a little, especially your later works, and never to have read anything else. Now familiarity with the pages of Our Mutual Friend and Dombey and Son do not precisely constitute a liberal education, and the assumption that it does is apt, quite unreasonably, to prejudice people against the greatest comic genius of modern times. On the other hand, time is at least beginning to sift the true admirers of Dickens from the false. Yours, sir, in the best sense of the word, is a popular success, a popular reputation. For example, I know that in a remote and even Pictish part of this kingdom, a rural household, humble and under the shadow of a sorrow inevitably approaching, has found in David Copperfield oblivion of winter, of sorrow, and of sickness. On the other hand, people are now picking up heart to say that they cannot read Dickens, and that they particularly detest Pickwick. I believe it was young ladies who first had the courage of their convictions in this respect. Tout seed, O belles, and the fair, in the confidence of youth, often venture on remarkable confessions. In your natural history of young ladies, I do not remember that you describe the humorous young lady. She is a very rare bird indeed, and humor generally is at a deplorably low level in England. I am informed that the natural history of young ladies is attributed by some writers to another philosopher, the author of the Art of Pluck. Hence come all sorts of mischief arisen since you left us, and it may be said that inordinate philanthropy, genteel sympathy with Irish murder and arson, societies for badgering the poor, esoteric Buddhism, and a score of other plagues, including what was once called aestheticism, are all primarily due to want of humor. People discuss with the gravest faces matters which properly should only be stated as wildest paradoxes. It naturally follows that, in a period almost destitute of humor, many respectable persons cannot read Dickens, and are not ashamed to glory in their shame. We ought not to be angry with others for their misfortunes, and yet when one meets the cretins who boast that they cannot read Dickens, One certainly does not feel much as Mr. Samuel Weller felt when he encountered Mr. Jobtrotter. How very singular has been the history of the decline of humor! Is there any profound psychological truth to be gathered from the consideration of the fact that humor has gone out with cruelty? 100 years ago, 80 years ago, nay, 50 years ago, we were a cruel but also a humorous people. We had bull baitings and badger drawings and hustings and prize fights and cockfights. We went to see men hanged. The pillory and the stocks were no empty terrors until evildoers, for there was a commonly a malefactor occupying each of these institutions. With all this, we had a broad-blown comic sense. We had Hogarth and Bunbury and George Cruikshank and Gilray. We had Leech and Surtees and the creator of Tittlebat Titmouse. We had the shepherd of the Noctes, and above all, we had you. From the old giants of English fun, burly persons delighting in broad caricature and decided colors and cockney jokes and swashing blows at the more prominent and obvious human follies, from these you derive the splendid high spirits and unhesitating mirth of your earlier works. Mr. Squeers and Sam Weller and Mrs. Gamp and all the Pickwickians and Mr. Dowler and John Browdie, these and their immortal companions were reared, so to speak, on the beef and beer of that naughty fox-hunting, badger-baiting old England, which we have improved out of existence. And these characters assuredly are your best. By them, those stupid people cannot read about them. You will live while there is a laugh left among us. Perhaps that does not assure you a very prolonged existence, but only the future can show. The dismal seriousness of the time cannot, let us hope, last forever and a day. Honest old laughter, from true Luton of your aspiration, must have life left in him yet, and cannot die. Though it is true that the taste for your pathos and your melodrama in plots constructed after your favorite fashion, Great Expectations, and The Tale of Two Cities are exceptions, may go by and never be regretted. Were people simpler or only less clear-sighted, as far as your pathos is concerned, a generation ago? Geoffrey, the hard-headed, shallow critic, who declared that Wordsworth would never do, wept like anything over your Little Nell. One still laughs as heartily as ever with Dick Swiveller, but who can cry over Little Nell?